Rehab to ripped. What do I mean? What am I talking about? I'm talking about blood flow restriction training. What? Yes, restricting your blood flow during exercise. Why? Really good reasons. But look, and I know it sounds crazy, but basically what you do, what it is, blood flow restriction training, or BFR, is a modality of training in which you take a band, um, a wrap, or these specially made cuffs, and you wrap them around your limbs to restrict blood flow during exercise. Now, I know that sounds straight crazy. Like, bro, what are you talking about? But just hang with me for a little bit here, okay? How it works is so what you do basically is you take, let's just say you take the wrap or the cuff or whatever, and you would wrap it around either your arms or your legs, right? So you would take one, I'm not sure that there are many studies done on people who have done both, like at the same time. I traditionally have not. But anyway, for example, if you're going to wrap it around your arm, you would wrap it around your upper arm just under the armpit, right? So, again, upper arm here, right? And if you were to wrap it around your leg, you would wrap it around your leg. Now, they have to get really, really friendly if you're wrapping it around your leg because it's really like right at your groin, like just under your butt cheek line, right? So they got to get pretty pretty personal with these bands and cuffs here. So, but it's upper leg or upper arm at the end of the day, and you will tighten it up to a tightness of like 6 or 7 out of 10. And basically the idea is to restrict venous blood flow. Okay, and that's basically it. Now, you don't want to over tighten those things, right? You don't want to make them so tight that you end up feeling like numbness or something like that, or pain, or if you don't want things to start changing colors, like you don't want purple arms, okay? That's not good. So you probably have it too tight if that's the case, right? So there's a level of tightness that is just going to restrict the blood flow, the venous blood flow, but it's not going to completely cut off all blood flow to your arm in the first place. So it's just. Yeah, so we just want to be very mindful of that one. And I'm going to repeat this probably throughout. You don't want to over tighten those things, okay? But what does it do, though? So, well, and I guess so before you even get to that point, so after you actually get the cuffs on, you just don't sit there, right, with the cuffs on. So what you do is you put the cuffs on, and then you perform a lightweight set of something, some exercise, but it's supposed to be lightweight and high rep, right? And then you release the cuffs after each set. So basically, you pop the cuffs on, do a set of 30 with really silly lightweight, and then pop the cuffs, release it a little bit, and then you get ready to go into another set, pop them back on, make sure the tightness is right, and then another set of 30, and you'll do that way. So that's basically the way you would do it. Now, why would you do this? Or rather, what does it do, right? First and foremost, what it does is it increases muscle gain. It is very it's effective in muscle growth, right? And it does that by way of this idea of metabolic stress. There have been quite a few studies lately, even more so, I guess, concerning the whole idea of metabolites, building up in your bloodstream, and that causes the muscle growth. And it's not quite like that, but I'm gonna break it down a little bit for you. And I'm trying not to sound too, because I'm not necessarily like a molecular biologist or anything like that. But so I don't want to go too far into the weeds and end up saying something that's patently incorrect. But this is through the studies and stuff that I looked to and the various doctors that I've spoken to. This is what I gather. Okay, so the main mechanism for this muscle growth here is the metabolic stress, and the BFR training does that by way of setting your muscles up in a hypoxic environment, or in other words, a low oxygen environment. As your muscle fatigues, it basically forms these byproducts or these chemicals as a result. Now, keep in mind, like the metabolic stress, I know it sounds like a kind of a complex term, but if I were to put it as simply as possible, it's just when your muscles are tired, right? So, and I know I'm probably missing a few things concerning that by simplifying it, but by simplifying it that much. But essentially, for the sake of this conversation here, or for the sake of this podcast, I just want to keep it as basic as possible here, right? Metabolic stress is basically when it occurs when your muscles are tired. So that kind of link that feeling up with that, right? So the metabolic stress, or your muscles being tired, that what that does is it produces, so metabolic stress produces metabolites, and these metabolites, lactate, phosphate, creatine, hydrogen ions, they basically create, so none of those are actually directly responsible for muscle protein synthesis. At one point in time, we thought they were, right? So all you have to do is feel the burn, build up the lactate, and your muscles are going to grow. That's not necessarily the case. But what they do is they set an acidic environment within the cells, within the muscle cells. Now that causes another kind of chain reaction of things to happen as well. Ultimately, it does lead to muscle protein synthesis, but it is not a direct one-for-one here. So being in that having the muscle cells be in that acidic environment, it causes your body then to respond in a few different ways. One of those ways is your body will then recruit more of your type 2 muscle fibers, right? Those are the ones that are more prone to muscle growth anyway. Those are for the explosive movements. They burn energy faster. So you'll recruit more type 2 muscle fibers at that point with the metabolites in your system, or metabolites in your bloodstream and within the cells, because of the acidic environment that occurs due to those metabolites. You get me? I know there's an easier way for me to say this, but listen, my head is about to explode. Now, it also, that environment, that acidic environment also triggers, well, it causes cellular swelling. So you're drawing more fluid to the cell, and that some way, somehow also triggers or sets off the anabolic pathways. Anabolic meaning, growth, like, kind of what like steroids do, right? So anabolic steroids cause muscle growth. So this acidic environment that's caused by BFR kind of sets off that trigger for those anabolic pathways, basically sending the signal like, hey, time to grow, right? And last but not least, it also, once you're in that acidic environment, it triggers, so the metabolic stress triggers the production of and the utilization of growth hormone and IGF-1. I think insulin growth. I forgot what that stood for. Oh man, yeah. So you can look it up. IGF-1, but both are responsible for muscle growth and muscle repair. So this is how it ends up leading to muscle protein synthesis. So all of that to say, in theory, you could gain a good deal of muscle with using lighter weights and BFR training. That basically opens the door up for a lot of different populations, because there are many populations who can't lift heavy weights, right? Because one of the main modes, or one of the main pathways for muscle growth is mechanical tension. Now, if you can't put that much mechanical tension on the muscles and their bones and the joints and all that fun stuff, what BFR training says is that you're not out of luck. And this is what makes BFR training such a good rehab tool, right? Say you just got out of surgery, or not just got out of surgery. Say you've been out of surgery and you recovered enough to start, working out again, but the muscle is atrophied so much that you really can't do much of anything with it, right? Slap on some cuffs properly with the proper tightness, not so your arms are turning purple or your legs are turning purple, right? I said I was going to repeat it again and again, but slap on some cuffs and then you'll be able to use lighter weights and get the same training effect, right? It's also like even if you're training, especially if you're training around an injury. I had to do this more than a few times where I couldn't necessarily I wanted my legs to grow, but I couldn't do barbell back squats for a little bit because I was just having some knee issues. I slapped on some cuffs and I did, things like sissy squats, and I did things like leg extensions and really, really light goblet squats. Seemed to work out just fine for me. In fact, I think, and I don't know if there's any research done on this, but I'm starting to think that it also jumpstarts the recovery process too. Because I just feel like, and again, this is purely anecdotal. This is all based on feelings. This is based on feelings, not facts right now. But I feel like my recovery was jump-started because I wasn't just continuing to hammer my knee with heavy weight, but it was also rushing and keeping all the blood there. So it's hard to get decent blood flow to your knees, right? But what I saw, like a couple studies, and again, I'm taking the studies and I'm kind of forming an anecdotal opinion here. But like I saw a couple studies where BFR training can actually help you build new, or form new, vessels and stuff like that. And I did notice that after training with BFR training for, actually it was a good deal of time, for like 8 weeks, 8-week program. I noticed that my veins were bigger in general, right? I saw veins that I didn't see before, and I wasn't necessarily losing fat at that time because I was trying to gain muscle, so I was bulking. So I think there's a way that it could jumpstart the recovery process as well. Again, purely anecdotal. I don't know. I didn't see any studies on that, specifically. But it's just, just putting two and two together there. But it could be great to train not just around an injury, but train with the injury. And again, anecdotally, jumpstart the recovery process. And it's also really good on active rest days, right? So I know a few people who just don't rest at all. Maybe they'll take one day, usually a Sunday, where they just completely chill and they're resting. But for the most part, they're doing some form of movement every day outside of that one day. Sometimes it's lifting or whatever. What I found was a lot of people recovered better when they did some BFR training with on their active rest days, right? So it's and it's something simple that you can set up at home and grab whatever light pair of dumbbells that you have and just kind of crank out some reps. And it typically doesn't lead to much soreness or anything like that, at least from what I experienced. Now, I know there's some people who will get sore at just any movement, period. So, take this kind of for what it is, right? But that also brings up a really good, I guess, additional point where it's just it's really good if you have little to no equipment, right? So I some time ago, it was a long time ago, it might have been last year or something like that, I did just blood flow restriction training. The only training that I did on my legs for a little bit was BFR walking, forwards and backwards on a treadmill. And I added a little bit of size to my legs. Now, I had to do it for a while, and I was doing it every day. But that is a way to kind of enhance the normal your normal walking, right? But if you have no equipment at all, blood flow restriction training could be a win for you in terms of gaining muscle it wouldn't necessarily be the best in terms of strength or anything like that, but it was, put up some show muscles. So you basically would wrap for instance, you would wrap, if you were just doing a you have no equipment and you just have the bands, wrap the bands around your arms, do some push-ups. And if you have, and again, you have no equipment at all, wrap the bands around your legs, do air squats. And do that every day. And do it till really do it till it burns, because it's supposed to burn. You're filling up your bloodstream with all those metabolites and you're keeping them there. So it's supposed to burn a little bit, right? So there's a way that you could use blood flow restriction training with nothing. Right, by itself, right? You can also use it, like if you have a light pair of dumbbells, that makes it even better, right? You can definitely use that and come up with a decent wherever you are, wherever you go program that you can do it at any time. So that's, I think, in my opinion, that's a big win in terms of being able to stay active, right? Like, and just as an aside, it's just like there's so many people that think that, I'm gonna change my life. I'm gonna get to the gym and I'm gonna do all this stuff. It's just like, how I started? I started because I was too embarrassed to go to the gym, and I started straight up in my house, right on my living room floor, with a set of 10-pound dumbbells. Right? So it's just like you don't necessarily have to take these big leaps up front. Typically, that's how a lot of people end up getting hurt, and then they become disillusioned with the whole process, and then they're out of the game. And it's just like, no, just start off small. Start off small, and take those little small baby steps and count them each as individual victories, and then you keep going from there. And that, I guess, that's an aside. My bad. So, if you have little to no equipment, BFR bands are a win for you. Now, look, you can even run the experiment that I ran and do the BFR walking, right? And that'll enhance your walking. Ooh, or you could do the BFR walking with a weighted vest on. That's if you're crazy. But you could also do, or look, you could do BFR walking lunges with a weighted vest on and a barbell on your back for time. Nah, don't do that. Don't do that mess. I guess that's me just taking a jab at all these crazy workouts, doing like, look, what type of Batman military type superhero training are you doing out here? And what is the point? So I'm going to make it a thing then. BFR walking lunges with a weighted vest on and a barbell on your back for time. Nah, please, y'all, don't do that. Don't do that. But that's it. That's the whole thing right there, right? Like BFR training, blood flow restriction training, or I think they also call it blood occlusion training. That is a very good training modality to use, especially if you're low on equipment, especially if you're coming off of an injury, especially if you're coming off of a surgery. Right? So that's why we called it Rehab to Ripped. All right, so take that, run with it, but don't walking lunge with it. So if you like this segment, here's another one for you. Click over here. And if you want the entire podcast, go this way. Click on that one right there. And once again, I appreciate you. All right, you take it easy.